Hello, folks. I am a grapefruit. Hello, folks. I am a grapefruit. Now, unfortunately, for the sake of the United States, many foolish persons, are going to vote for Hillary Clinton and support the Democratic Party because they think Hillary Clinton will do something to advance their cause. And this is a sham, a scam. This is crooked. Hillary Clinton comes from Arkansas. And Arkansas is a white racist supremacist state that has helped the poor and the black for ages to suffer. But because they figured out they could control the poor blacks and use the politics to advance themselves, the Clintons decided to become career politicians. Mrs. Clinton is not qualified to be the president. She's not qualified. There's nothing that qualifies her. What qualifies her? How could it be that when Obama ran and won, how could it be that the news media would say, which they did, well, this is Obama's turn, and then Hillary is going to run in for 8 years, and it'll be her turn. They said that. It wasn't commentary. It was them giving their opinion. Why? Because the news media thinks they can tell you what to do, and they can, because you will let them. You can't think for yourself. If you're a progressive, or you're a white middle-class person, or you're a poor black person, you have been being oppressed by the Democratic Party since Roosevelt. You know how Roosevelt got into the White House? Somebody, we don't know who, but it don't take a rocket scientist to figure out that he had Huey Long from Louisiana killed. He was killed. And then the Democratic Party took the Huey Long political point of view and embraced it. And Huey Long had a political point of view that was very popular. And it told everyone they could be a king in their own house. Roosevelt was a very wealthy person. And he was a cripple. And the whole time he ran for office and was in office, the news media lied to the American people about his being a crippled man. They lied. Just like they lie today about Hillary Clinton's fitness to be president. She's a tyrant. She is not unlike Hitler was. She is very much more like Hitler than Trump will ever be. Hitler was a person who did nothing except use politics to advance himself for his own sake. And if people around him didn't agree with him or said something he didn't like, he would go off. And of course, the progressive liberal psychiatrists in this country say that Donald Trump's nuts. But Hillary Clinton is worse, 10, 50 times worse than Donald Trump, except Donald Trump says what he thinks publicly, and Hillary Clinton only says publicly what she thinks will get her votes. Now, she is a liar, and we're all liars. We all lie. Donald Trump lies, and I lie, and you lie. But most of us have learned the difference between lying because some personal issue that isn't important and lying about things that are important. So She doesn't, and the news media will not tell you how she acts in private. And you can look on YouTube and Google it, and you can find lots of information. But if you're already for Hillary Clinton, you're going to ignore it. And so will the people for Trump. Whatever they say bad about Trump, if people like him, they're going to ignore that and think it's wrong. But understand something. Donald Trump hasn't been dying for the last 30, 40 years to be president. He does not need to be the president. Hillary Clinton has been trying to plan to be the president from when she was married to her husband when he was a governor. They have a plan, and it's an evil, wicked plan that is anti-American. But it's pro-Clinton. And forgive me, I am a white, poor person. My father grew up in Arkansas. He's from Arkansas. And I'm telling you something. You shouldn't trust anyone from Arkansas. They're going to lie to you. They're going to manipulate you. They're going to use you. And if they're so smart like Clinton is, they're going to put the wool over your eyes. And there'll be wolves who are going to take you to the slaughter, which is exactly what the Clintons have done. You have any idea how many people who knew the Clintons in Arkansas when they were governor and political hacks who died before they ran for office? They died. Why? Is it a coincidence? I mean, apparently, unless we were lied to by the Clinton Chronicles when Clinton ran, more of the people who knew the Clintons died than didn't. And Hillary Clinton would kill you in a minute if by killing you she could get elected to be president. She would be married to a man who's a rapist, which she is, and she would just say, oh, what does it matter now? Because she only has one desire, and that's to be the president. And now look, the person who's president doesn't run the country, and if you think they do, you're stupid. But they do get to pick the people who are going to run the country. And they do get to say things about which direction they think we should go. And I want to tell you, the Iranian government, not the terrorists, the Iranian government, for 30 years, 50 years, since Carter was president, they have publicly declared that they hate the Jews, that the United States is a puppet of the Jews. If you're gay and you go live in Iran, you'll be killed for being gay. If you go to Saudi Arabia, they will kill you. It's the law. And Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, who's a puppet of the white racists who are in the Democratic Party, and Hillary Clinton, who is a secretly dishonest white racist, they wanted to give the Iranians the atomic bomb and say it's okay for you to have an atomic bomb. And the Republicans said that's crazy. Those people are not the Muslims, the government, who are not Muslims, because Muslim means peace. And if you're not Muslim, you don't try to fight a war. But there's a whole lot of people who call themselves Muslims who want to kill everyone else. Other Muslims, because they don't understand anything. They're ignorant. And why? Because there are demons in the world. There are ungodly ideas that control people. And the same ungodly ideas that controlled the Nazis are controlling the Iranians. Hate the Jews, hate the gays, hate the blacks, and make them all slaves to you. And Hitler did it in the 1930s for 10 years while Roosevelt was president. Well, most of the time. the Hitler was building thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of fighters and bombers and ships for war, and kept saying, oh, we won't go to war. We would never go to war. And of course, Roosevelt said, well, I hate war. I hate war. And all the time he was hating war, he was preparing to go to war, lying to the American people. And if the Republicans who wanted someone to go kill Hitler in the 1930s could have gotten into office, Hitler would have been killed, and 60 million lives would have been spared. Because Hitler was a crazy nut, not like Donald Trump. Hitler didn't run for office saying, what he thought. He was a progressive liberal who didn't obey the laws. He didn't believe the laws applied to him, just like Hillary Clinton won't obey the law, and she doesn't think it applies to her. And the news media agrees. If you want to control a country and take it over and do evil things, first you get control of the military, then you get control of the news media, the radio, the TV, and the papers. And you silence anyone who is against you. And the Democratic Party and Hillary Clinton didn't do it with guns, but they did it with ideology. They made sure that the news media can't tell you one reason why Hillary Clinton shouldn't be president. And if there is a reason, they will make sure it gets covered up or it gets expressed in a way where you will think, well, it doesn't really matter. Because they want Hillary Clinton in the White House. Because they want Democrats in control. Because they have their own agenda that is much more like the Democrat agenda than the Republican. The Democrats want there to be a whole bunch of poor people and a middle class that suffers. And they want the rich people who succeed to be punished for succeeding. And they don't understand that in order to make jobs, someone's got to invest money, lots of money, $50,000, $100,000 a job per job. You can't have someone drive a limousine without buying a limousine first. It costs money to make a job. And the purpose of the government isn't to make jobs. The purpose of the government should be to get out of the way of business. And yes, it should work to make sure there's a level playing field and that the big business person doesn't trump the little person. Competition is good. But an oligarchy where there's only 3 automakers in the country because that's all that we want, when there should be 16 automakers in the country, you end up with what we have now, that there's really no automakers here. Most of the autos are made elsewhere. And look, wake up. The Democratic Party has been in charge for 80 years in this country. In every major city, the Democrats have been in charge. And they've gotten all the guns out of the hands of they want to. And they run the federal government, they run the state government, they run the local government, or at least the lion's share of it. And yes, there's been some Republican mayors in New York City, but they weren't Republicans. They were Democrats like Bloomberg who pretended they were Republicans so they could win. The Democrats went along with Bloomberg in New York City because he spoke like they think. And any Republican running for office has a problem because liberal progressives are stupid. They will continue to support a person like Hillary Clinton based on lies. And they can't see through the lies. And the news media helps them. It's like it helped the Roosevelts. It's helping the Clintons. Wake up, wake up, wake up. What in the world did Hillary Clinton ever do to qualify her to be president? How could it be that Hillary Clinton was the only choice of the Democratic Party. Are there no other ladies or women in the Democratic Party who are qualified to be president? There's not one other woman better qualified? I'll tell you, your grandmother, white or black, especially if she's a poor black woman, especially if she had no husband helping her raise her children, which is often the case, caused by the racist Democratic Party. They oppress the blacks in the cities, send the children to jail for jumping turnstiles and things that have no importance. Good Lord, anyone lives in New York City in a poor section should be able to get on the subway for free. And if the Democrats weren't liars, that would have been that way for the last 20 years. But instead, they make that an issue by which they're going to take a 16-year-old who's looking for a job, has to get out of the ghetto to find it, and they're going to arrest them because they don't have the money to get on the subway and they jump the turnstile. And the police arrest them. And the police are wicked. They're Democratic Party members, mostly in New York City. Sometimes they'll vote for a Republican who talks about law and order. But when they arrest somebody, it doesn't matter to them whether they did it or not. And there are plenty of police officers in New York City who are white supremacist racists, and they will say, if you're black, they will say, I saw him do this crime. And they're lying. And the judge knows they're lying, and the prosecutor knows they're lying, and the public defender knows they're lying. If they have a brain, but no. They want to get all these poor black boys and girls now, but mostly it was boys, and get them with a little bit of a criminal record. 2 or 3 events, 2 or 3 things while they're children. And while in the whole rest of the country, children's criminal records aren't looked at or considered when they're adults. Believe me, the Democratic judge and the prosecutor and the public defender all assume every poor person, especially every poor black person who comes in front of them accused of a crime, they believe they did it. And if the person says, well, I didn't do it, then the public defender, the person being paid to help them defend themselves, will say, well, can you prove you didn't do it? And he'll say, or she'll say, the policeman's going to say that you did it, and you're going to say you didn't. Now, who do you think the judge is going to believe? What witnesses can you get to prove that you're innocent? And they can't get any witnesses. If they insist they're innocent, the public defender will say, well, if you say that, fine, we'll have a trial. But it'll take 6 months or 8 months to have the trial. And you're poor. Well, they won't say that, but they'll mean it. You're black. They won't say it, but they'll think they're black and poor. If we put them off on bail, they're going to leave. They're going to jump. We'll never see them. We'll never have a trial. So they put him in Rikers Island for 6 months or 8 months. And the public defender tells the child when they get arrested, well, if you just plead guilty, even if you didn't do it, just plead guilty. And then it'll be no problem. You didn't do this. You'll never do anything again. And when you're 18, this will all get covered. And you'll be okay. But that's not what happens. What happens is the police, who are a bunch of crooks in New York City, when 2 years later, after this 16-year-old ended up with 3 or 4 criminal charges against them for petty things, then they'll take the 18-year-old and a half, and somebody does a crime, and a police officer who's lazy will just go get one of those teenagers and say, he did it and I saw him do it, or here's the evidence, or he did it and here's the proof, even though the proof is a lie. And they will use those poor black people as fodder. And the judge, who's making $3,000 a week as a New York City judge, will put them in jail. Upstate New York, where the prisons are run, used to be all by white racist Democratic Party members, but now there's some blacks in there who you would think are against the white racism, but everything they do is the same. They worry about whether the child has a TV or not about whether they actually are guilty or not. And they create criminals out of these people. And so now when they go looking for a job, they can't get one. And this has been going on for hundreds of years, 100 years in New York City. And certainly for the last 80 years. And the Republican Party doesn't control New York City Council. The Democrats do. And the judges aren't Republicans, they're Democrats. And the Republicans were started and created to end slavery and to give black people an equal chance to enjoy life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But still today, 80 years ago, half the black people didn't have a job and couldn't get one. And guess what? Today, half the black people don't have a job and can't get one. Why? Because they were falsely accused of criminal activity. And eventually, many of them do become criminals because they can't get a job, except if they want to sell drugs or do something that's immoral. And they don't want to do that, but they don't know what else to do, and they're frustrated, and they're disgusted. And if we are black people or white people, whatever we are, we should have some pity on these poor people and end this racist nightmare. Well, Trump was in the debate October 20th, and he had to use words like disgusting and horrible and awful because the man didn't know how to articulate the facts. Hillary Clinton, she is treated like God by the media and the Democratic Party and you. You can't tell me a reason why she shouldn't be president. And if you're black and poor, you may not even know who's running against her. And you're not likely to vote anyway. But the Democrats are using the idea that they're going to help the poor and help women to get a woman in the White House who probably is responsible that we're going to get blown up with atomic bombs. Why? How? Because the Iranians now have permission from the United States and the United Nations to stockpile, although they say they won't do it, just like Hitler said, well, we'll never go to war. They're lying. And they're developing enough. They're going to develop 50 atomic bombs, small ones. And that'll be good. They'll float 5 of them into New York Harbor, and we will not catch 5 atomic bombs in 5 different ships coming into New York Harbor pretending to deliver something or whatever they're going to do. They will blow New York City up. Why? Because it's full of Jews, gay people, and black people. And guess where else they'll blow up cities? Philadelphia, for sure. And Hollywood, all those Hollywood people who are given millions and millions of dollars to get Hillary Clinton into the White House, she has already signed their death warrants. And Obama was the puppet that allowed her to do it. Oh, well, we have to be nice to those people, then they won't kill us. How stupid. How absolutely banal, ignorant. Those people are going to kill us in a minute without batting an eye, just like Hitler had 60 million people killed because he thought he was serving God. And Hillary Clinton thinks she's serving God by advancing the future. Her husband made this trade deal with Mexico. So now what's happening? Mexicans are working in slave wages to produce things that we have to get minimum wage to make here. Now, if we're going to import things from Mexico, why don't we insist that the people in Mexico who are making those things must also be paid minimum wage? Why don't we insist that? Then we would be able to compete with them very easily. But no, the Democrats who are for the war people and the mistreated people, they allow the Chinese to be treated like slaves that are working, producing the things that Arkansas founded Walmart sells you for $1 because the people making it are slaves in China. And every company in the United States can go down to Mexico and hire people to make the stuff they were making here, and they can pay them 50 cents an hour or whatever, I don't know, much less than they can pay here. And poor black people are in New York, and they have no job. And the Mexicans come in here, and they do come in illegally, and the minute they cross the border, they are a criminal. If we want them to come here, then the Democrats who have been controlling Congress for 80 years can simply change the law and say, well, we want plenty of Mexicans to come here. Welcome. For whatever reason, however, they can vet them or do whatever they want, but we can bring them here. Right now, whoever wants to come from Mexico comes, and we don't know anything about them. Except 10 years later, there's 15 million of them, 10 million who are criminals because they broke our law and they're still breaking it. And their children who, for the sake of these poor children, they shouldn't be deported. Well, let the children go home with them. They had no right to come here as criminals. And the children are American citizens. They can go home and come back anytime they like, or at least they have legal standing to be in this country. But the people who committed the crime shouldn't be here. And what do they bring with them? Their marijuana that they love to smoke because it's their culture. And that's why the Clintons and the Democrats love them, because the Democratic Party and the news media think smoking pot is good. For 150 years, they had slaves growing tobacco. And the world, in the last 50, until about 30 years ago, doctors and everyone else swore to you and swore to God that smoking cigarettes was pretty good for you. And they started to tell us it was dangerous, but they kept selling them to us and letting us have them. And now we finally figured out that smoking cigarettes isn't good for you. But guess what? The Democrats are trying to tell us, and the news media wants that smoking pot is healthy. It's good for you. And people are dying why we should let them smoke pot. That is utter nonsense. That is so stupid. The only thing that they're saying that for is because they want to smoke pot. And inch by inch and little by little, they want to destroy America. Because if you have people smoking pot all across America like they do in Mexico, the country's going to fail. Because the people smoking pot are crazy. Their brain is being turned into feces. They're being destroyed. And, of course, they brought alcohol in, the Democrats did, for the immigrants. And the black people have been being destroyed by alcohol since then. They have, and now they're going to be destroyed by pot. Well, they're half being destroyed by it anyway, because the Democratic Party is immoral, doesn't know right from wrong, but knows how to fool everyone into thinking it does. I am a poor white man. I am almost blind at this time. I may get my sight back. But we are poor4trump@gmail.com. And please, help me get this message out to poor persons and rich persons. And we need to save America. The poor people need to register as Republicans. We need to vote for Republicans. And we need to participate in the Republican Party the way you're supposed to by, look at our website, poor4trump@gmail.com. Send us an email to that. And you'll get a paperback that'll explain how to participate in democracy from the ground up, the right way, the way we should do it. If you don't have a job, you got time to do that and save America. Otherwise, you're going to be killed. If you live in a major city in New York, the Iranians are going to just blow you up with the bomb that Obama and Hillary Clinton gave them. And they'll be so happy, they'll jump up and down with joy when it happens. Wake up, America, wake up. This is crazy. Donald Trump, that nobody wants him to be president in the Republican Party because he tells the truth, which is that we're all being taken for granted.